Maryland Heights. Trying to catch approximately 57,000 Asian carp requires more than 2 miles of netting, 15 boats, work from about 60 people, and lots of patience. At least that's what it has taken at Creve Coeur Lake in Maryland Heights, where a massive, ongoing effort from local, state and federal officials aims to reduce the lake's invasive carp population by 90%, using a rare method of herding the fish with nets, sound and electricity. After almost 2 years of planning and weeks of careful execution, the effort finally began to bear ample fruit, or fish, on Friday, when entire schools of carp were hauled ashore. 4,000 of the carp, a total of 8.3 tons, were netted and piled in trash bins Friday. Native fish were sorted out to be released back into the lake. The fish have been tough to corral. The hundreds of the carp were caught earlier in the week. Officials hope to funnel them into harvest nets by the thousands. You always hear about lemmings going off the cliff. That's the same theory here, said Kevin Menno, a fisheries management biologist with the Missouri Department of Conservation, who is helping coordinate the effort. But the fish could not be coaxed into the bottleneck of netting where officials planned on concentrating the harvest. So on Friday, officials ditched the harvest nets and used bulldozers to pull entire cells of netting ashore, dragging in hundreds of feet of net and drawing fish toward the lake's beach for capture. That collection method will probably be used for the remainder of the project, officials said. That approach was running into some literal snags Friday afternoon, with some nets getting caught on detritus at the lake bottom and crews working to free it. It only takes one hole in there and you've lost all your hours of effort, said Lynn Schrader, a fisheries regional supervisor with the MDC. So patience is key. Creve Coeur Lake has been overrun with invasive Asian carp species since sometime before 2009, when the fish entered in floodwater from the nearby Missouri River. Although the carp favor environments with running water, which they need to spawn, they have had strong, negative impacts on native fish in the lake, including popular sport fish such as crappie. Now, it's estimated that the vast majority of fish in the lake are carp, according to Dwayne Chapman, a research fish biologist with the U.S. Geological Survey, who specializes in work with invasive carp. Past attempts at managing the lake's carp have been unsuccessful, prompting officials to change direction and try a new method used previously only in China and, later, Illinois. That technique has gradually unfolded since Jan. 21, when the lake was closed off from public use. Since then, officials from the MDC, the USGS, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and St. Louis County Parks have worked to herd the fish toward a collection point. The work has been complicated by factors ranging from government shutdowns to cold weather that would freeze the nets when crews were working. But the fish themselves provided perhaps the biggest challenge, repeatedly outmaneuvering attempts to shepherd them toward the harvest nets, or pushing against nets being dragged ashore, even as perimeter netting kept them confined to a limited fraction of the lake. But on Friday the noose was finally tightened to the point where the carp could be bagged in high volumes. Caught fish are being sent to nearby Champ landfill to be discarded. Menno said that current regulations did not allow for the fish to be put to other uses, but that officials were going to work on rectifying that for if there is a next time. Besides the logistical challenges, the exercise has also been a race against the clock, with a finite window of time blocked off for the project to be completed, and progress lagging behind the originally anticipated timeline. Public use of the lake is still barred until later this month, and a polar plunge to benefit Special Olympics Missouri is scheduled there on Feb. 24. Menno said work crews would cross that bridge when they get there, if the project is not completed by the original deadline. The cold winter months also represent the only time for officials to strike at the carp, because the species are more energetic and elusive in warmer conditions, and infamous for launching themselves several feet out of the water when startled. With a limited season for netting them, officials in Illinois are waiting to use the equipment for similar work on a lake near Morris, Ill, as soon as the efforts at Creve Coeur Lake conclude. Their interest reflects that much is at stake, not just locally but on a broader scale, with many outside fisheries managers eager to see the effectiveness of the strategy. A lot of people know we're doing this in conservation circles, and they're waiting to see what happens, said Menno, adding that a couple years' worth of research papers and talks may emerge to analyze their efforts. We're hoping this will prove a real good tool. At the very least, officials say the process is an experience that they and others will learn from. The bottom line for me is whether we learn, and the science of trying to do this better," Chapman said. He added that if the netting process worked, it was likely to be followed up by installation of some kind of barrier that would try to let fewer carp into the lake during moderate flood stages in the future. Looking ahead, though, Menno said he ultimately hoped similar efforts could enlist the help of commercial fishermen, who can use the opportunity to make some money while providing a service to the public. "To me, that would be the ultimate win-win," he said. "And, of course, the efforts could make the lake safer and more enjoyable for public use," said Emily Ferrigard, a Columbia-based fish biologist with the U.S. FWS. "We could be making it a better experience for people. Whether you're a stand-up paddleboarder, rowing team or crappie fisherman," she said.